You just laughed at a joke that wounded you, nodded along to plans that exhaust you, said yes to something that made your soul scream, no, and everyone thinks you're agreeable. Only you know you're disappearing, one agreement at a time, one swallowed truth at a time, until you became a ghost haunting your own life. That moment mid-task, when you realize you've been building someone else's dream for 15 years. Not dramatically, just a Tuesday afternoon recognition that every effort you've perfected serves someone else's vision. You finish what you're doing, submit it, then start calculating something else entirely. How many days you've lived versus how many you've actually been alive. The difference stuns you. That's where you are now, measuring the gap between existing and living, between who you are and who you display, between the life you have and the life that's actually yours. Something in you is waking up. The fact that you notice the gap between your truth and your performance means the real you is still alive under there, still fighting, still refusing to be completely erased. Someone is expecting you to show up as who you've always been for them. The supportive one, the flexible one, the one who never causes problems. And you'll do it. You'll show up. You'll deliver the lines, even though your body keeps telling you it can't keep doing this. That death isn't metaphorical. Each time you betray yourself for belonging, something real dies. The part that knew how to say no. The part that trusted its own desires. The part that believed it deserved to exist without apology. The evidence lives in your body. That song from 15 years ago plays and your shoulders drop to their original position. Your real position. Before you learned to hold them up, back, differently. Your hands move to phantom instruments you never learned to play, but always wanted to. The gesture so natural, it startles you. Dreams, where you're someone completely different. Except watching closer, you're not different at all. You're just unedited, speaking without measuring impact, moving without monitoring grace, existing without apology. Waking from these dreams feels like loss, like being expelled from your own country. That involuntary smile when you see something genuinely funny, before you remember who's watching and adjust it to match their energy. The way your voice drops an octave when you're truly relaxed, so different from the pitch you've trained it to hold. The childhood nickname that makes your whole body soften, even though you haven't heard it in decades. Your body remembers who you were. In the way you still sleep in the same position you did at 7. In the foods that comfort you when no one's watching. Not sophisticated, not healthy, just yours. In the way certain smells transport you to before the editing, before the performing, before you learned that being yourself was dangerous. Sometimes in the shower, you have entire conversations as yourself. Your real voice echoing off tiles. Arguments where you finally say what you meant. Conversations where you don't translate. Declarations you'll never make outside that steam. The shower knows who you really are. Has heard every real thought. Witnessed every authentic reaction. The only room where you're consistently yourself. Remember before authenticity became strategy. When reactions were immediate, unfiltered, true. 5 years old, maybe 6. Someone asks what you want to be when you grow up. You say something impossible without flinching. A dragon, a superhero, the person who makes rainbows. No checking faces before answering. No calculating acceptable responses. No wondering if your truth was too much. that child still exists in your cellular memory. Before the first time love flickered when you were too loud. Before excitement needed containing. Before your natural state became incorrect. The shift happened imperceptibly. A look of disappointment when you cried at the wrong moment. A sigh when you asked too many questions. The subtle withdrawal of warmth when you didn't match their energy. Learning to read the room before reading books. Adjusting your frequency before learning multiplication. Becoming lovable before discovering who you actually were. And now, decades later, your body carries evidence of all that contortion. Chronic tension in your shoulders from bracing for disapproval. Shallow breathing from years of holding truth in your chest. Insomnia from replaying conversations where you chose peace over truth. Your body keeping score of every betrayal, the bill coming due. You know the exact moment it happens. The split second between your truth and your translation. That pause where your authentic response gets swapped for the acceptable one. You've become so fast at this execution, most people never see the switch. But you feel it every single time. In the morning meeting when your idea gets dismissed and you smile instead of defending it. Your jaw tightens, your breath catches, your face stays professionally pleasant. At the family dinner when conversation turns cruel and you change the subject instead of challenging it. Your stomach knots. But you keep deflecting, keep the peace that costs you pieces of yourself. In the relationship where you pretend to want what they want because disagreement feels like abandonment, your chest hollows. But you mirror their enthusiasm for plans that feel like prison sentences. The exhaustion you feel isn't from your life. It's from translating what you actually feel to what they can handle, what you actually think to what keeps peace, who you actually are to who they need you to be. But something is shifting. You're catching yourself mid-translation, pausing before the automatic yes, feeling the cost of each betrayal in real time instead of hours later when exhaustion hits. You've become fluent in everyone else's comfort, expert at reading rooms and matching energy, master of the slight adjustment that keeps everything smooth. But you've forgotten your native tongue, the one you spoke before, learning that being yourself was dangerous. Actually, you haven't forgotten it. It's there every time you're alone, every time you drop the facade in the car after the gathering, every time you close your door and finally exhale. That exhale, that's your native tongue speaking. The archaeology of your day reveals the exhaustion. Wake up, and before your eyes fully open, you're already calculating who you need to be. Check your phone to remember which version has appointments today. The work you, the family you, the friend you who's supposed to meet for coffee. The voice that answers the morning call. Notice how it adjusts mid-ring. You see who's calling, and your vocal cords automatically recalibrate. Higher for authority figures, softer for people you need to comfort, enthusiastic for those who expect your energy. Your voice has 10 different settings, none of them yours. Walking from bedroom to kitchen, passing the mirror, that micro adjustment of posture, pulling stomach in, shoulders back, face into pleasant neutral, arranging yourself for your own reflection. Even alone, you're auditioning for acceptance. Entering the office, the grocery store, the gym, feeling your personality shift at the threshold. Like stepping through an airlock that transforms you from who you are to who you need to be. Your co-workers know one person. The cashier knows another. None of them know you. The lunch conversation where you agree with opinions that make your stomach turn. But disagreeing would mean explaining, and explaining would mean revealing, and revealing would mean being seen. So you nod, add supporting murmurs, hate yourself for the next 3 hours. Shape-shifting so constantly, you've forgotten you have an actual shape. Being water so long, you've forgotten you were meant to be solid. The liminal spaces know who you are. That parking lot where you sit for 5 minutes between destinations. Not scrolling, not calling, just sitting in the silence between performances. Your face doing nothing. Your body finally still. These 5 minutes more real than the hours on either side. The walk from your car to the building, feeling yourself transform with each step. By the door, you're someone else entirely. But those 50 feet of sidewalk held the real you. The security camera caught someone you'd recognize from decades ago. Same walk, same way of holding your shoulders when not performing confidence or humility. Bathroom stalls have heard your truth. The middle of parties, weddings, meetings, slipping away, not because your body needed to, but because your soul did. Closing the door, pressing your back against something solid, letting defenses fall for 30 seconds. Breathing, being nobody. The relief so sharp it feels like withdrawal. Stairwells between floors. Taking stairs instead of elevators, not for exercise, but for the transitional space. Those concrete chambers where you can mutter the truth. Where you can make the face that matches your feelings. Where you can be furious or devastated or ecstatic without moderation. The moment after hanging up the phone. Your real face returns like elastic snapping back. The smile drops so fast it's violent. Or the concern evaporates instantly. Or the enthusiasm dies like a light switch. That moment shows you how much energy the performance required. How far from yourself you had to travel. Late night drives to nowhere. Saying you need milk, gas, something from the store. But really needing motion without destination. Music loud enough to drown out the performer. Speed fast enough to blur the edges of who you're supposed to be. For these 20 minutes on the highway, you're nobody's anything. Just consciousness moving through space. Notice something about these moments. They're often when you're in motion. Walking alone. Driving with music. Dancing when no one's watching. Movement shakes loose the facade. As if your body, when allowed to move freely, remembers how to be free. The cruelest part is that it worked. People do choose you. They do approve. They do stay. But they're not choosing you. They're choosing your performance. And you know this, which is why their presence feels like absence. Their love feels like loneliness. Their acceptance feels like rejection of everything you're not showing. You test it sometimes. Let a little truth slip out. Show a flash of your actual opinion. Watch how quickly the atmosphere changes. How suddenly you're being difficult or not yourself today. That's when certainty arrives. They love your costume, not your core. They're committed to your character, not your person. But you also notice something else. Some people lean in when truth emerges. Their eyes light up. They say, "Finally," or "There you are." These people have been waiting for you to drop the act, seeing through your disguise all along, hoping you'd trust them with what's underneath. These are the ones who ask the second question. Not just, "How are you?" but, "How are you really?" And then wait. Don't fill silence with their noise. Hold space for whatever wants to emerge. They don't need polish. They need real. The adaptation that saved you as a child has become your suffocation as an adult. The shape-shifting that secured love now prevents it. The compliance that earned approval now earns contempt, mostly from yourself. The very skills that helped you survive have become the bars of your cage. Your genius-level ability to read rooms means you never get to just exist in them. Always scanning, calculating, adjusting. Your gift for anticipating needs means yours never get met. You're too busy meeting everyone else's. Your talent for being whoever they need means you never get to be who you are. That glimpse in the mirror startles you. Not because it's unfamiliar, because it's so familiar. Eyes looking back carry honesty you haven't allowed in years. You recognize features ignored, small lines carved by suppressed laughter, shadows of unspoken truths. For a moment, you see the person who dreamed, who believed, who existed before survival strategies took over. The recognition is fleeting, but changes everything. Once you see even a fragment of who you actually are, you can't unsee it. Catching glimpses everywhere, in gestures, desires, your body's impulses. Feel the mismatch between your inner wildness and outer curation. Volcanoes don't apologize for erupting. Oceans don't ask permission to crash against shores. Yet you edit every word, moderate every reaction, curate every expression. The exhaustion isn't from living. It's from the constant translation between your nature and your presentation. Every morning, you wake with a choice. Reconstruct the familiar facade or don't. Let people see what's underneath. Let them be uncomfortable with your authenticity. Let them learn your boundaries. Let them adjust to your truth, or let them leave. Their comfort isn't your responsibility. Their approval isn't your oxygen. Their love, if it requires your edited version, isn't love at all. The person you can't stand isn't who you are. It's who you've been pretending to be. The void between who you've been and who you're becoming feels endless. Old friends text, and you don't know how to answer. You're not the character they remember, but you're not fully yourself either. Conversations feel raw, unbuffered. The script is gone, but the new voice hasn't fully emerged. This in-between space terrifies. Not quite one thing, not quite another. Too real for some, not real enough for your own standards. The temptation to slip back into familiar patterns pulls constantly. At least those were known. At least those were safe. But safe from what? From being rejected for who you actually are. You're already being rejected for who you actually are. They just don't know it. Living in preemptive rejection, curating yourself out of existence to avoid a dismissal that's already happening in slow motion. The person you truly are is waiting, has always been waiting. Not to be created, but to be uncovered. Not to be improved, but to be revealed. Not to be managed, but to be lived. You were never broken. You were always whole. They just couldn't read your blueprint, and you learned to hide it rather than teach them how to see. There's a part of you that wants something without permission. Not what would be reasonable, not what would be admired, what it actually wants. Maybe it wants to scream. Maybe it wants to run. Maybe it wants to say the truth you've swallowed for a decade. Quit something that's slowly killing you. Start something you're not ready for. Be inconvenient, imperfect, loud, real. That wanting isn't chaos. It's oxygen. Every time you suffocate it, something in you goes numb. Every time you honor it, even a little, you can feel your life return. You know this is true because you felt both. The death that comes from self-betrayal, the aliveness that comes from self-honor. Even tiny acts of authenticity create ripples, saying no when you mean no, leaving when you want to leave, speaking when silence would be safer. These moments might seem small, but they're revolutionary. Each one declares that your truth matters more than their comfort. Each one reclaims territory you'd surrendered. Each one reminds you who you were before you learned to disappear. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to be you, complete, unedited, unapologetic. The world has enough people performing happiness, enough people pretending connection, enough people disappearing into acceptable shapes. What it needs is someone willing to be inconveniently real, someone willing to disrupt the performance with truth. That someone is you, not eventually, not when you're ready, now, in your incomplete, imperfect, still figuring it out state. Because authenticity isn't a destination you reach. It's a choice you make, moment by moment, to stop translating yourself for easier consumption. Who might finally meet you once you stop pretending you were ever anyone else? If this found you at the right moment, let it ripple. Share it forward.